Jim Bovard there, and that looks like a great railroad cap.
We can't hear it.
Oh, yeah, and
The beach sticker hat as well, so.
Well, that's great. Well, everybody here was really honored to make your acquaintance, Jim. I was bragging about all the great work that you've done, but it was all true, of course. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so there are so many different things to talk about, as you and I were reflecting on earlier. And we just heard a very dynamic message. I will email it to you so you can watch it at your leisure. But a dynamic message from Dr. Ron Paul regarding the End the Fed speech, which was 10 years ago, roughly. Actually, I think somebody said it was October 10th, actually, in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan. And of course, that was a very important thing. And he was explaining to us, again, just some of the ramifications of what the Federal Reserve does and why they're so bad. I don't want to interrupt you there. You're lighting up a stogie that looks like that's a high-quality tobacco there.
Well, I was not planning to light it, but one thing I want to say is I have a lot of appreciation for the work that Dennis has done. He's so well informed. He's one of my favorite people on Facebook. He has been out there fighting for so many years, and he's very effective. I mean, and he's sort of like Daniel going into the Lions Den, as far as going to the GOP convention and stuff like that, and calling people on their BS and pushing them. And, you know, it's great he does that. I wish there were 10,000 more like Dennis Marber.
Well, you're very kind, sir. We have a room here that's full of people that are actually doing the same sorts of things. I mean, I'm looking around here and I'm inspired when I think of all the great work that we got. Now, Vince Clarity over here, who is the treasurer for our group and is the vice chairman for our 9th Congressional District. Paul Taros, all the great work he does with his TV show, Tough Talk with Taros, which is the #1 political TV talk show here in the state of Michigan. We have Shane Trejo in here, who you may have read some of Shane's stuff. Like Shane was just in the Drudge Report, and he's the head of the Michigan 10th Amendment Center. And so many people here. You know, so I apologize for not mentioning everybody because it would take up all the time of our session. But thank you, Jim. Now, what was I going to ask? Oh, yeah. So we know about all these different things that are going on, and boy, there's so many issues, and a very horrible tragedy that just happened in Las Vegas. And I know it's an issue that you looked at with the gun situation. But then, as you pointed out in your tweets and in your writing, people should be focusing on what's happening in Spain. To the people of Catalonia, the Catalans, they have a right, as Thomas Jefferson wrote, to alter or abolish their government. They have a right to secede, to leave one association and join another one. And the tyrants in Spain are mistreating them. The police there are beating them up. And you pointed out why the natural right to own guns and to own firearms and the natural right to own the means of self-defense is so important. I am curious as to if you might share some of your thoughts on what's going on, both here and overseas. And also, sir, you must answer for the charge that you're biased against tapas, another Spanish food. So, your thoughts.
Well, you know, perhaps I'm biased on tapas, but I'm pro-pizza.
Oh, very good.
As far as being a good American.
Yes, sir. We'll have pizza tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sitting here having pizza envy. Some of the photos you've posted in the past of the pizza buffet in there, I'm thinking like, here I am with just a cigar and a beer and pretzels, but I'll be okay. As far as Vegas is fascinating. Vegas is a great tragedy. My heart goes out to the survivors, the people who lost loved ones. It's fascinating how quickly a lot of politicians and editorial writers jumped on this to argue that the time has come to confiscate all firearms. And I was thinking about that today, and you know, I don't think it goes so well. And the thing I would like to see is the editorial writers and the politicians who say that we should confiscate firearms, put them in the front line of the people going house to house searches, especially one of those flyover states, like, you know, send them up to Gaylord, Michigan, and see how that goes, the Gaylord neighborhood. But there was a tweet out by Nancy Sinatra this afternoon, which she said basically that all the NRA members would die. I don't think there have been quite a few mass murders, and I don't think any of them have been NRA members. And that's a nuance the media doesn't tend to pick up. Switching over to Spain, it was fascinating to see how it played out this past weekend. You had the courts, the politicians in Spain trying to prohibit people in Catalonia from voting. People in Barcelona and elsewhere in Catalonia said, screw you, we're going to vote. And then the Spanish government sent in their paramilitary police. You've all these fascinating videos of these guys in black outfits with black helmets feeding viciously old people, young people, dragging people away from their ballot box. There was one young woman who a paramilitary cop grabbed her and broke her hand finger by finger, as far as what I read and what I saw on the internet. And it's just fascinating to see the level of violence the politicians will use in order to force people to consent. It brings to mind what the great anarchist and abolitionist Alexander Spooner said about what Abraham Lincoln offered the South. What Lincoln offered was the government consent, and anyone who didn't consent would be shot. And this is basically the deal that Spain offered Catalonia. And I don't know what's best for Catalonia, I don't know what's best for Spain, but it was fascinating to see the level of official violence used against peaceful citizens who were merely trying to cast a ballot. It struck me as a Spanish version of the horrendous violence captured on film at Selma, Alabama in 1965, where there were the black civil rights protesters who were viciously attacked by the
Uh-oh.
I want to say he didn't like something he said.
It's bringing the Americans to pay some attention to this, so hopefully it gets better.
Well, hopefully, and as you point out, we can't say that this sort of thing never happened in America. As I recall, I think you're from Virginia. And
I was born in Iowa, but I was raised in Virginia, and I've never recovered.
well, no, but I saw this great. It was a tweet you put out, sir. That way back in the day, well over a century ago, somebody said, "Don't ask a person what state they're from, because if they're from Virginia, they'll be happy to tell you about it, and if they're not, they won't, because they'll be embarrassed or something like that to say where they're from."
That's it. The old quote goes that it's rude to ask a man where he's from, because if he's from Virginia, he'll tell you. If not, he'll be ashamed to admit it.
All right. Well, and of course, Virginia, and I know you've written about this, the horrible things that happened to the Shenandoah Valley during Abraham Lincoln's violent counter-revolution against the Jeffersonian Federal Union, and what happened to the good people of the valley, the horrible things. Would you like to speak on that for a moment or two?
Yeah, I actually did a piece for the Wall Street Journal 3 years ago on the anniversary of General Phil Sheridan going down and burning down the houses, the tops of the barns, and just about everything else in the Shenandoah Valley as part of Abraham Lincoln's plan to totally wipe out the southern economy, bring people to their knees. A lot of civilians died because of that. It's been almost completely forgotten by the history books. And speaking of Michigan, Colonel, I forgot to use the colonel or general at that point, but Custer was one of the top commanders under Sheridan, and Custer came to my hometown, Front Royal, and hanged 6 of Mosby's men. John S. Mosby had some forces that would would come out and strike and blend back into the woods, basically. And they were almost always dressed in Confederate uniforms, but they had infuriated Sheridan, so he gave the order to hang them, and Custer was reportedly involved in capturing and hanging 6 of Mosby's men in 1864 in my hometown, which really resonated intensely for the people there, because war is a horrible thing, but then when you start just hanging in public, capture the soldiers on the enemy side, it's like, okay, so are you going to kill everybody?
Yeah, just awful, and the innovation. Some say, I think Tom DiLorenzo and others have written about this, the innovation towards total warfare, rather, that was going on at that time, and what that might have portended as we go forward in history, perhaps up to World War I. And you, I think, just recently wrote another great piece about World War I and how the negative effects of what happened here at home and overseas during that time period are still with us. Would you like to speak on that, Jim?
Yeah, I did a piece for USA Today back in April on the 100th anniversary of the start of World War I. And that was one of the worst Pandora's boxes that an American president ever opened. There was no need for us to go to that war. President Wilson had been siding with the British openly for over a year and a half at the time that we basically got into the war. And Wilson had been reelected 6 months earlier on a pledge reelected on a vote that he kept us out of the war. Well, okay, so he got reelected and he dragged us into the war. It didn't do the U.S. any good. We had over 100,000 American soldiers who died during that war. There was a lot of other chaos that unleashed, and somebody unleashed great chaos Lenin and others. So, is your sound system okay?
Yeah, yes, it's fine. There were just some noise in the background. We're trying to.
Well, I'm kind of, having been raised in the Appalachian Mountains, I'm used to people firing the shots in the background. If someone's talking to me.
Well, no, that's a good. Yeah, no, yeah. World War I, yeah, just so many awful things, and paving the way for the rise of the Soviets and the Nazis. Well, like Scott Horton says, if it weren't for Woodrow Wilson, we might not have seen Hitler and Lenin and Stalin and World War II and all that sort of thing. But yes, what the politicians do is just awful, and sometimes well, not sometimes, frequently, the worst things are done by the politicians and by their minions. And one of the things I've always admired about your work is how you speak out with great clarity about this. And we have a mutual friend, somebody you actually met. He actually was a Skype-in guest to us a year or two, I guess maybe it was a couple years ago, and he died recently, very sad. The heroic William N. Grigg, who just, again, died way too early, had done so much great work. And you've told me that you and Will actually met outside the United Nations when Will was with the New American Magazine of the John Birch Society. He eventually left that, but he was a man of great courage who, literally, he's a man of strong faith. So he picked up his cross to speak out for the disadvantaged who were being oppressed by the politicians, by the militarized police, and who were crushed through civil asset forfeiture, through beatings, through the drug war, all these sorts of things. And so you and Will actually had a personal relationship to some degree, but perhaps you could share with us some of your thoughts on the great William N. Grigg.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking those. Will was a great fellow, and he did great work, very courageous, very hardworking. He had so many struggles he was dealing with. He was also an athlete. I have memories of seeing sometime in the last couple of years of his life. I think he put a video on Facebook of him doing bench press, and he's bench pressing a hell of a lot more. He was bench pressing a hell of a lot more than I ever did. I had the chance to meet him. He was covering. There was a UN conference for a worldwide anti-gun confederation or resolution or something like that. He was covering the John Birch Society. I was covering for the National Rifle Association magazine. And he and I was hanging outside this rally where there were a bunch of pro-gun folks who were talking about burning a UN flag. And there were a bunch of NYPD folks there saying, "You burn that flag and we'll arrest you right now." I was like, okay, maybe we don't need to burn the flag. But it's fun to, he and I sat on a park bench. I think I probably smoked a cheap cigar, and we were swapping stories. I especially appreciate he had been on a speaking tour with John Birch, and he was down in Roanoke, Virginia, and he had met my father, and had been very kind to him in conversation and subsequent email exchanges shortly before my father died. That was very classy of Will. But that was the kind of guy he was. He's someone who, worked so hard, and it's just, it's a shame he had to work so hard. It's a shame that he had to be basically out there as a lone fighter for much of the couple of years of his life.
Yes, and I'll just mention to the folks here, he left behind a wife and 6 children. He made very little money. The quality of the work this man did was incomparable. And the financial remuneration he got was paltry at best. They were on the verge of destitution, his family. He's died, so that's obviously it's not going to help that situation. You see these trained prostitutes who make millions. The injustice is infuriating. But there is, I know that his friend A.J. Ellis was on Facebook. They were raising money for Will's family. If anybody wants to go look that up, the last name is Grigg, and that's certainly a deserving cause. I know an area that he wrote about and that you wrote about, and ties into our earlier conversation, Jim, regarding things such as Waco and Ruby Ridge. Would you like to share some of your thoughts on those situations?
Yeah, those were issues that Will was very hard line on, like a lot of Friends of Freedom. It's hard to know where. I had a piece, I guess about a month ago in USA Today talking about the lessons of Ruby Ridge and how this is what happens when government demonizes people and makes a vendetta about going after them basically because of their ideas. And this is a piece a few weeks after the clash down in Charlottesville, where you had a lot of vicious folks on both sides of the fight, folks. And after that, a lot of people were saying, well, the government needs to crack down on right-wing extremists. The government did that, it didn't work out so well. Another wrinkle on the time this in Las Vegas, tying it back to those people calling for the government to go out and confiscate people's guns. People had forgotten that the FBI and the feds at Ruby Ridge were basically terrified because they had been surrounded. So the feds came in, they had the Weavers surrounded, but there was a second circle. There were a lot of gun owners in Idaho and that neck of the woods who were coming there as well. And the feds were thinking, we better get this finished up pretty soon. Janet Reno said that was one of the reasons why she approved sending in the tanks at Waco on April 19, 1995, feared that there would be the same thing that happened at Ruby Ridge, a lot of gun owners coming to the scene. I think Janet Reno was lying on that. I mean, the first time that ever happened. Anyhow.
And many people died as a result of her actions, right?
Yeah, very much.
In a very horrific way. And then talking about disasters and bad things that happen, of course, we see with the storms and other things. And they really hit areas where people have built perhaps imprudently, but may have been encouraged by government subsidies and things of that nature. And Jim recently wrote about that, and it was quite intriguing to read his wisdom on it, also to see, as he would report, here's the feedback he's getting. It'll curl your hair. Jim, why don't you tell us about what you wrote about that topic and some of the nasty responses you get from people?
Well, I did a piece last month for USA Today on the federal flood insurance, which has basically been a screwed up program ever since it was created almost 50 years ago. And the thing it's turned out to be is federal flood subsidies, because you've set lower than market rates for people building in floodplains and building in Hurricane Alley, places that no prudent person should be should be building there. And so what you have is the federal government coming in and paying to rebuild houses again and again. There was one house in Houston, which I think had been, the feds have paid to rebuild, I think, over 15 times. And there have been a huge number of properties around the country that have had those come in for 2, 3, 4, 5 payouts to be rebuilt because they're in the wrong place. And it's the kind of thing that was, there were experts who, even before the program was started, warned that it would be a complete disaster if the insurance rates were set artificially low, which of course they were, because that's how politicians get votes. As far as the feedback on that, I had a fun little blog piece about a month ago looking at the various folks who would like to see me dead because of that article and because of the Ruby Ridge article. So it seemed like there was a split in opinion. There were some people who wanted to see me hanged, other people simply wanted to see me banished from Twitter, and others thought, well, it'd be good if you were dead. So, a mixed bag.
Right. Well, you've got broad shoulders to keep up under all that. I don't know how you do it, but
good beer.
Good beer and good tobacco, sir.
Well, I didn't say good tobacco. I said cheap cigar.
Oh, cheap cigar. Okay, cheap tobacco and good beer. Okay, that's the key to long life and successful integrity and courage and that sort of thing. Well, Jim, you know, we had, some of the audience members might want to say a word or two. In fact, my friend Dave Lanier has followed your work for quite a long time. Dave, would you like to come up and speak to Jim and ask him a question or share a thought?
Do I need the microphone?
Well, why don't you come up so he can see you?
Yeah, you can see, yeah.
Yeah, you come up here.
He needs to see you.
And Jim, I should mention, Dave is a fellow who's been an inspiration for the Liberty Movement for decades.
Yeah.
And he and his wife Glenna, who, excuse me, just got a nice mention by Dr. Ron Paul in the video, have meetings at their home in Auburn Hills, and they have a facility, they call it the Garage Mahal. If you're ever in the area, we'll have to take you to the Garage Mahal. All the cool kids go there, and Glenna's the best baker around.
Okay.
Yeah, well, here's Dave. Dave, say hello to Jim.
Is it Jim or James?
Jim.
Okay, the book says James Bovard. I read your book,
Never trust the book cover.
Freedom in Chains, right? Okay, I was fighting a property rights issue with some property I had, and I needed information on property rights and our rights to own property, and your book gave me a whole lot of information, and it was my beginning. So,
That's great. I'm happy to hear that.
yes.
Yeah, I had a fair amount of property rights and lost rights as well as freedom and change, but I'm glad that the book was useful.
It was very useful, and I thank you for everything. I wish and I love your sign. Thank you, Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
You know, I was at a protest rally in D.C. a few years ago, and folks had those signs, so I just kind of made sure that I took one home, even though the subway prohibited taking signs in the subway. And I didn't get arrested. What the hell?
I know we're on the same page. Thank you for everything you've done. I need to read more of your books. How many books have you done? How many books?
I've done 10 books, and the most recent one was Public Policy Hooligan, which talks about some of the adventures I've had, and part of what shaped my love of freedom. I had a spin-off from that yesterday in Counterpunch, talking about being busted in Barcelona, where I was almost arrested for hitchhiking 40 years ago, and I didn't quite get arrested. I almost got killed by a drunk driver, but you know, it's a comical story, what the hell.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
You bet.
Okay, well, this was a very interesting discussion, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, how about a big round of applause for Jim Bovard? He's a great champion.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, you're welcome, sir. So I urge B-O-V-A-R-D. Google Jim Bovard or James Bovard. Find him on Facebook. Read his stuff. You'll be entertained. You'll be informed. And all the cool kids are doing it. So,
What kind of beer is he drinking?
yeah, what kind of beer are you drinking there, Jim?
I'm drinking a Sierra Torpedo, which is, you know, basically, I'm for health reasons, trying to drink less beer, and this one's got about 8% alcohol, so I don't need as many.
Well, see, you are a great strategic thinker. I knew it. Boy, oh boy, I am impressed by that. You are even higher in my estimation than you were previously. So, Jim, I want to say how much we really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to Skyping again. And the Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Maybe someday we'll all be together physically as well as virtually.
Sounds good. Hey, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks to everybody. It's really great you guys are keeping up the fight and kicking the government's butt.
Yes, sir, and you do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Jim Bovard. Good night, sir. You got pizza, but you got beer. And a cigar.